go to the gym this morning?
I did go to the gym this morning.
How was it? Nice, isn't it?
The gym was it was hard this morning for me when I was on the elliptical. Oh, and then I was watching CNN News, and they had a story about how some high school students got caught cheating on their SATs. And at some, like, nice school or whatever, and this black guy on the elliptical next to me just started busting out laughing, and it made me laugh because it was like, motherfuckers, you know what I mean?
Some fucking interesting news this morning.
Yeah.
The guy that escaped from a jail got caught in Portugal after 41
I
years.
saw that, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
They got $1 million, and those are the old days when people used to hijack old school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now people want to hijack and blow up planes. That's no fucking fun.
Those days they made you
You're
take your
taking
clothes
lives.
off.
Yeah. And those days they made you suck a dick, you know what I'm saying? Up in the air. I mean, it was fun getting hijacked. Cubans used to do that. Hijack planes from Cuba to the United States and back to Cuba. You fucking just left there. Now you want to take a plane there, you dumb fuck?
Yeah.
You could do it by raft in 3 hours. You want to take a plane and go to jail.
Raft.
Yeah. It never fucking amazed me. The news always blows my mind.
And then today, did you see that Hallmark now has cards for people who are your friends that go unemployed who lose their job? Can you fucking believe that? I share your sorrow, but yo, Jack, I ain't got nothing for you to borrow. Like, you know what I mean? That's
Why
so
give me a card? If you ain't
ridiculous.
going to give me a 20 when I'm unemployed, I don't want nothing from you. It's
I
like
know,
Christmas, you know what I'm saying?
know.
You're going to say, how sad. I don't know. For a long time, I used to apply for jobs. And it's bad enough that you're not going to give me a job. And I could dig that. It's when they write you a letter to tell you that you didn't get the job. I never understood that stamp. Just let it go.
Right.
Just let it go. You didn't hire me. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
But we are sorry to inform you that at this time, we're not going to. I knew that walking out. I knew that when you talked about a piss test. I knew that already. I knew this was a dead-end street. Why are you going to mail me a letter to tell me what I already know? You should be ashamed of yourself.
That is so funny and so true.
People just don't let it go. Who gives a fuck? You're not going to hire me. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Who else? Sprint and all that. I mean, it's just fucking crazy how much time they waste when they could just tell you the first time. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What else is going on in your life?
Well, it's been a little bit, as you know, of a crazy week, and I had yesterday I drove home from my kids' music lessons, and my friend Jewel was sitting on the stoop, and my friend Jewel has stage 4 breast cancer, and I have talked about her in the past in the podcast. I've known since I'm 18 years old, stripping or whatever, 18, 19 years old, and she was like the hottest chick in the strip joint. We've discussed all that, but so she was sitting on my stoop, and she's just on her 4th or going on her 5th round of radiation or chemo, and her little wig was askew, and I have to say it's a sad thing and a terrible thing when your friend is experiencing that, but our friendship has grown so much over the past couple of weeks and months. It's been difficult. It always is difficult with fucking Jewel. I mean, I got in a fight with her once on a plane where I left first class and went and sat in the very last fucking seat to escape that crazy bitch. But I love her, and she's my witness in life. And I started thinking about when I met Jewel at the jet strip near the airport, and I started thinking about all the other women that used to strip at the jet strip. And I don't know what made me think about this as I was driving to the gym today, but I remember there was this one chick, and because in a strip joint, everyone brings their own kind of clientele. You know what I mean? Everyone has their thing. The psychologist who brings all the bikers in, weird, right? Or the white girl with all the Asian gangsters that are sniffing around her, and you know what she looks like David Bowie with a vagina. You know what I mean? Like that kind of Bananarama, like fucking hairdo, but. And she'd always like wiggle like there was a tickle inside of her vagina that no one could scratch. But you're hanging out with Asian dudes, so you know what I'm saying. So and then I thought about this crazy little gymnast girl who had this rockin' body like Nadia Comaneci, and she was a meth freak, and she would just come out and just do flippity flip. And in the middle of the flip, her legs would open, her clit would come out and snatch the 20 off the rail. I mean, she was like fantastic. And I was just thinking yesterday when I drove up and I saw my friend Jewel, and I've known her for so long, and that she's going through this. And I thought about, wow, I wonder what happened to all those other women. And then I thought about, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, I went to the UFC, and I was thinking about that because I was telling quite a few people, and men including, mostly men, like, hey, I went to a UFC fight. And it's so weird to me that a lot of men were like, how could you just go to that? And isn't it violent and it's pointless? And I was thinking, like, it is kind of weird that I kind of liked it. And what about it that I liked? And then I thought, you know what? It's like strippers, you know? It's like, it's the male equivalent, and I mean it in the highest respect, of being a stripper, because it's like you can bullshit and be all flash and blah 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 blah, but there gets that point where you gotta fucking get up on that stage. You know what I mean? And you're selling a part of you that most people would never do. I mean, you're really fucking putting yourself out on the line, you know? And I think that's what I really liked about the UFC, you know? I really like that. Anyway, that's all I
No,
wanted to
it's
say.
it's a very beautiful correlation in a different way, because I compare it a lot to comedy. I really,
Yes.
really compare it a lot to comedy. For me, it's really helped my comedy, because I understand it's just not about, we go out there and just want to throw right punches.
Right.
You have a great right hook. Felicia just used a great right hook. Don't worry about that other shit. That's what we're told. But we neglect other things, and then when we get beat for not having that quality, for not building that part of our, whether getting taken down or whatever, we have to work on it. And it showed me, I compared it a lot to I compare, anytime, listen, I sat somewhere 2 weeks ago and watched somebody read 3 poems, and it knocked my fucking wig off. Not since Boulder has somebody knocked my wig off with poetry. I've always liked poetry. What's he doing that's different? He's not even going for a fucking laugh. How tough is that job? Going up there and just reading poetry, and people giving you hugs and buying you drinks and lighting you cigarettes. You didn't even make people laugh, but you made them twitch something inside, or they're fucking phonies. It's either one or the other. You don't know, because you're sitting there. It's like meditation. I've tried to meditate 1,000 times. Nothing's ever happened. I just sit there breathing heavy. Nothing's ever happened, but some people go into another realm, whatever. What am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? I'm not that fucking intense, but it's so weird when you correlate things, how it makes them more understanding. You really understood it. You hit the nail on the head.
I really understood it, and I also and we spoke briefly about this. Really, and I was telling the people, the guys including, like, when you see UFC on the TV, it's more frightening, because you're just seeing the fucking fight, and you're seeing him punching him that hematoma, and you're like, what the fuck? It's no one stopping it. But when you see it in person, you see all the support there is around. We got 4th row seat tickets, thank you, Joe Rogan. But we also saw when they come up and they look at someone, and they, they're wiping and putting the stuff on their face, and you see, like, if something went down because one guy wouldn't tap out and got choked, and you see the other guy like, fuck, when's this guy gonna tap out already? I don't want to damage anybody. You see that, and when you feel like, oh, he didn't tap out and he went a little unconscious, little legs flipped around, and you were like, oh no, I don't want to see that. But when you see how quick people jumped into the ring, and how, you know what I mean, how people cheered it, and it's just a different thing, and I very much enjoyed it. And by the way, it is totally like going to see strippers, because you have to pay a steep cover charge to get in.
They get you in the
There's
top.
always an army recruitment little booth or a center around the building or in the building itself.
If I was a woman at any point in my life, and I was as crazy as Joe Diaz was as a woman, even if I didn't like it, I would walk into a strip club and get on stage one time just to feel that power. I have never, everybody jokes about fucking strippers. Everybody jokes about strippers. There's always a stripper joke, blah, blah, blah. Stripping is one of the toughest, easiest. It's just an overwhelming art. It's like selling cars. All that shit is belly to belly sales. You cannot replace that experience in your life. No matter what you do, you cannot replace that experience in your life. Porn on web pages was big 5 to 10 years ago, but people want belly to belly touches. I like to jerk off and look at computers, or people do, whatever the fuck they do. But you know what? There's nothing like belly to belly sales. When a guy comes in, you're tired, you're about to have cramps, and all of a sudden you just hit the jackpot.
Right.
This guy just mugged somebody, and you're taking 2 of that 4,000 in his pocket. It's amazing. It is. I told the story about Denver last year when I was in the halfway house, and I was clean and sober, but I was still selling blow. I was getting married in 3 months, and I wanted the wedding to be the best. My cousins were coming, and I wanted dishes, and and fucking, I stopped at the strip club that didn't have alcohol. You could bring your own alcohol, so the chicks are naked, and this Korean girl just took me for the ride of my life.
I worked at a place like that.
Broke
That's
my
the best
heart.
place to
Yeah,
work.
broke
Yeah.
my heart.
Really?
I mean, left me with my fucking pockets out, the taste of pussy in my mouth. I had the juice all over my face driving home on the 70, depressed. And I'll never forget that I said, you know what? That chick, I ran into a fucking animal.
Yeah.
And then you go to some strip clubs and there's the chicks that are sitting there smoking cigarettes, waiting for the fucking phone to ring. The old man beat them up last night. And there's some chicks that just go in there and it's a job, man. It's a job.
Yeah.
And they walk out of there and then something. I like the ones that they should always make a TV show about the one that has two complete different lives. And nobody would know. Like, she lives in Studio City, but she shakes that ass in San Francisco.
Right.
And when she goes to San Francisco, she dresses in a business suit, so people wouldn't even know. She's like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She goes up there, she shows, and not even shows the monkey halfway. Like, that's
that's what I did. I would never show.
That's
like,
a real
anything
art.
pink. Yeah,
That's a real art. That's a
I would
real
sit
art.
at the bar and just bullshit.
We've just turned it into a disgusting, filthy fucking thing because we're animals as a society. But you really think about it. You said that when you went to New Orleans, you seen a burlesque show.
Right.
Before we became filthy fucking animals, this country was hot on burlesque. And when you watch burlesque, you're like, what the fuck? How old am I? But all of a sudden you start watching, you're like, wait a second. That bitch is selling me the pussy with her clothes on. That's a tough job.
Yeah,
And I'm saying it wrong, but you understand, she's selling me her soul with her clothes on.
That's like the difference between a stand-up and a sketch comic. Like, you know what I mean? It's a stripper and the burlesque chick. To me, it's like the stripper is the stand-up and the burlesque chick is completely the
fucking
sketch
beautiful.
comic.
You just blew me away. You didn't like the burlesque when you went to see it?
There has been, that's so funny. There has been where I've seen burlesque and where I was like, well, that looks really cool. And then there's been burlesque that I saw, and it's like, really, girl, really, you know, you gotta bust it a little bit. If you're gonna sell the idea of pussy, then, you know, have a show, do a show. It's a show.
You know
Show. Flowers, feathers.
You know what the best burlesque show I ever seen was by mistake? Glendale.
Oh, really?
I went to do comedy off of Harry Street or something. They have like a burlesque show there. And they had 3 comics. They paid us, not bad. I walked in there, purple lights. It's like a dome. I'll show you. Next time we're going to the Ice House, look to the left. There's a weird building, and you're like, what the fuck happened? It's got blue lights. And you're like, what happens in there? It's a burlesque place. I think they did comedy twice there. I was very impressed. They had the jugglers. They had the people going across the ropes, the women doing everything, the chick smoking a cigarette with a flower. Just really, and I understood where they were going.
Yeah.
When you understand where they were going, they weren't the best looking women.
Yeah.
They don't have to be, They don't have to be,
Well, but they always have something a little special. And you know what also reminds me of all that? Chicks that do roller derby.
You went to the roller derby.
That
Same
do
fucking
roller
thing.
Derby. You know, like that to me is the most amazing
When
thing.
you went, were there a lot of hot chicks working? Rolling around?
Yeah.
There was a couple.
There was a couple that, Joey looked like you with wigs, and then there was a couple where you were like, oh fuck.
Bro, there was one that worked at a hot dog stand in Hollywood that every time I went there, she had a black eye. This bitch was a fucking 12. Banging.
Yeah.
Just made hot dogs. And she invited me. She used to have the flyers. There was another place in Hollywood, $8 hot dog, but the fries are really good.
Not an Okie dog.
No, and they have lemonades right by next to the Jehovah's Witness theater there.
It does warm my heart that there's Jehovah's Witnesses going to see theater for Jehovah's Witnesses.
No, there's like in Hollywood they have those independent little religious groups. You don't even.
Yeah.
They have them up in North Hollywood too. They have like, Pentecostal Church of Satan.
Yeah.
And on Sundays you see a bunch of immigrants walk in there with white shirts, and you're like, what the fuck, with little pouches? You don't know what they're doing. I ran into some nice Jehovah's Witnesses about a month. I even gave them 5 minutes of my time.
You did?
Yeah, because they did the close the first time. We don't want to talk to you. We don't want to bother you. You're on your way to work. We just want to hand you a pamphlet. And if you see us in your neighborhood and you have any questions, hit us up. Thank you.
Bye, the way, we have released our animation, and
Did you see that, motherfuckers?
Did you see our little animation?
Did you see that,
That's the thing
motherfuckers?
I've been working on.
And it grew on me like a fucking flower.
It grew
like
on Joey because he wasn't so sure, you guys.
I kept looking at this thing the other day. You know when you put a YouTube video on or something, a YouTube, and you smoke pot and you have the joint in your hand, and like you're looking at something and the joint turns off, and you go, I did that for 20 minutes and actually giggled. I told the story with you. I heard it 1,000 times, and I actually giggled at the animation. I really fucking was laughing.
Good.
And then the next day, you said to me, "Did anybody say anything to you about the animation?" I'm like, I didn't know where she was going with that. You were putting me on the spot. I think you were playing a trick on me. I'm like,
Like,
yeah. Some people
it?
made some comments and shit. And then yesterday, the phone started ringing. Yesterday morning, people were like, "Dog, who did that? Do you have the name? Is that going to be on Adult Swim?" Blah, blah, blah. And then a friend called who said that he had already sent it to a friend of his to see. And I really like it for an interstitial. I was telling you that I really look at it, you know,
Hopefully,
whatever.
Someone will see it. Do us a big favor. I put it on the podcast. You can download it just like you do the podcast, but a little video. It's on our webpage, beautyandthebeast.com. Go to the webpage, hit on the YouTube. It's right on the front page, just so we can get a count. And if you feel like it, will you do us a favor and just share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter? I mean, that thing cost me a pretty penny. One of my kids is gonna have to sell drugs his senior year of college. You know what I mean?
You know, and there was a lot of back and forth. It's a beautiful thing. It really was.
Animation's hard. It made me respect animation way.
I always respected it. Oh no.
more.
I watched a show on it 20 years ago, and I'm like, I guess that fucking career is out.
Yeah.
That career is definitely out. That's for professional stoners that don't like to talk and like to hide in the dark, and they're content. And even if the world ends, these motherfuckers will keep drawing pictures. It takes a certain patois to do that, and you got my utmost fucking respect. In fact, I like sitting there and watching people. Like when I go to those fairs and I see people getting their pictures done, I don't want nobody drawing my picture. But I like to watch those guys. You know, I was always one of those idiots that entered the contest with the picture of the giraffe. And,
oh, you did?
Yeah, I got back
really?
dick. I was terrible.
Yeah.
I was terrible. I couldn't. I could color. I could sketch.
I could glue like a lot of shit in kind of an order. I was a big gluer, decoupage kind of person until I stopped. I'd never bedazzled. But my kids, when they have projects, I made one of those, what the kids they learn in California, the missions. I made my son's first mission, because you have to, in 4th grade, every fucking kid in California has to make a mission, you know, because of all the missions up and down the coastline. And I fucking was a machine. I was such a machine.
I didn't know that they had to make
and
missions.
then the next year, I was like, fuck it, here's some macaroni, do what you gotta do.
How many missions in California when you were doing this book report?
Fuck, dude, I
Millions.
There's like 21 or 20.
That's it?
Yeah, but dude, you have to fucking make the mission and like do the stucco, and you know, and I had to do the shading on the stucco so it looked original, and this fucking was a lot of work. Anyway, that animation was a lot of work, and I want to say thank you to Christian Alou. He's a Canadian fellow that did it, and also to Gary Myrick, who let us use the music, and he is now on tour with John Waite. So I'm very happy for my friend Gary Myrick, and he was very kind to do the music.
It really hit home the other day. Speaking of going home, I was out of commission for about 8 days. But it was weird because I went to New York to shoot something, and then I went to Denver to work, and I lived in both places. I never really lived in Denver. My whole office of operation was Boulder and Aspen. But it was so weird how, you know, we sit here for a year and we tell each other stories, and every week we dig to see what stories we could tell, and you fucking black out the shit that's in front of you. And then something you see just sparks it. And we did the show in Denver, and my friend's kid came out, and I know him since he was 6. He's 26 now. And this other gentleman I knew out that was a roofer, and we talked after the show, and we said our goodbyes, and as I was leaving, I hear, Coco, and I turn around, and it's this kid, and he goes, I don't know if you remember me. Whatever's kid, you know, he used to come to the house, and we started talking. Yeah, how's your mom? How's your dad? And he's like, they're not doing too good. And I went home, and afterward, Ari goes, how do you know that kid? You know, it seemed like you know him for a long time. And I go, Ari, you're not going to believe, this is one of those stories that I forgot they even existed in my life. Like, it just disappeared, like just shit. And I tell you, when I told Ari, I went back to my hotel room. It kind of kept me awake. Like, I had to go get a coffee and smoke a fucking few numbers, because it kind of bothered me, like what I had become after. And we always talk about divorce. We talk about it a lot, like that your mind gets taken away. And I didn't know. I thought I was going crazy at that age. But then I read something where sometimes a divorce is harder on people than a death. And it takes years to repercussion. And that you catch yourself doing things just, it's like taking an Ambien. You buy a car, and then a week later you realize you bought the car. And I was doing a lot of crazy things. And there was stuff going on with my daughter. And you've always asked me about sex. I was like, nah, I'm not a fucking crazy motherfucker. Well, I became friends with this couple who this kid that approached me at the end was their parent, the son of these kids. Mm-hmm. And they were a nice couple, very nice. I met them, like I said, over 20 years ago, and he was a traveling salesman, and she was a house mom. And they were both very good-looking people. They were beautiful people. But she was crazy, and I didn't know this. I had met them, right? I had met them and just started whatever, and we would do barbecues. They came over to my house when I was married. They met my wife. I mean, it was like a big thing. Then we got separated, and then, we continued friends with them. But he always traveled. And one Friday, I had just gotten to comedy, and I get a call from her. Now, Felicia, by looking at her, I knew she was a beautiful woman, and I knew, obviously, she had fake tits, and she liked sex or whatever, but I never discussed it with her. Do you know what I'm saying? I get a call, and she says...
you knew all that information.
I knew that information from looking at her, what I had. Yeah. You're a hot chick, you're from fucking Miami, you got fake tits. You don't have fake tits because you're a Christian. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You don't have fake tits because you fucking want to dance at church.
You could be Christian and have fake tits.
No,
you don't know. Yeah.
So I just knew, and she was my friend's wife, so I kept her at a distance. I was not tight with him, but we were life friends. We smoked dope together. And she calls me one morning, and she goes, I need a big favor from me. I go, what's up? She goes, you need to cover for me. I go, cover for you? I go, what are you talking about? She goes, listen, you did a comedy show last night. Can you just say I was at the comedy show if anybody asks you? And I go, who's going to ask me? And she goes, well, my husband might ask you. He's out of town.
That's ballsy.
Yeah, like this. And there was never any really in between us. At that time, I was friends with him, but I knew her, and she would say hello and give me a hug, but I had never discussed anything with her. Like I said, I just knew from looking at her. She had a past, or she, whatever.
Right.
So she says to me, can you just do it? She goes, he's mad because he called the house, and this kid answered the phone, and I was 15 minutes late, but I got caught in the I-70, and fine, I don't even want to know. So 2 weeks goes by, he's on the road. I bump into her at a gas station. She comes over, hey, how you doing? She goes, did he ever call you? I said, no. She goes, all right, thank you for covering for me. And with a straight face, I go, can I ask you a personal question? What'd you put me into? And she goes, if you really want to know, I'll tell you. I was having a threesome. Now, Felicia, it's like you saying it to me, like very matter-of-factly.
Right.
And I go, just what the fuck, guy? You put me in a bad position. Are you cheating on him? And she goes, I just fucking told you I was having a threesome. She goes, me, and she told me this other girl's name, go out on Friday nights, and we pick up guys, and we have fucking threesomes. You think there's something wrong with that? She goes, what? You don't think I know when that motherfucker goes on the road, he's fucking chicks and all this shit? Like, she starts going off on me, and I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but whatever. If you're having threesomes, God bless you, right? Now, I go in my car, and I'm like, whatever. This is not happening. This is somebody playing with me. Right, and fine, whatever. You know what? Play with me all you want. I've walked down this street before. 2 months later, I'd see him and we talk, and I see her in the same room, nothing. 2 months later, again, I get a call one night, and she's like, and she goes, can I borrow your car? And I go, for what? And she goes, my car broke down, and I'm on my way to a threesome. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, right? I mean, Felicia, I'm like, no, you can't borrow my car. And within 15 minutes, she pulls up, huffing and puffing. And she goes, listen, I'm in a fucking bind, okay? I'll do whatever the fuck you want me to do. I'll pay you. I need your fucking car. I had an Acura Integra. And I go, what time am I going to get my car back? I got to go do comedy. She goes, I just need to fucking borrow your car. I can't take my car. I'll leave my car there for you. Go to the gig, and I'll meet you later on, and we'll fucking exchange cars. Okay? And I go, fine. I finish up my gig at 12. She goes, I'll be home by then. Just come over, knock, and I'll exchange the keys. Fine. So, boom, I take my car. She takes her car. I go do comedy. I never think nothing. Felicia, I never think nothing of it. I go, boom, boom. On the way home, I pull over to a payphone. Bling, hello, yeah, I'm home. Drop off the car. I walk in. When I go back and knock on the back door, this bitch opens the fucking thing up, and she's got a robe on. And she's like, come in, it's cold. And she goes, come in. She goes, sorry about that. She goes, I was in a rush. I was meeting this guy. Me and the girl, we're going to fuck his brains out. She's telling me all this, and I'm sitting there going, no, you're not telling me this shit. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, if you're sucking dick part-time, I might as well give you a stabbing, right? So we start talking. She goes, no, this is what she says to me. For you lending me the car, I was going to give you a blowjob anyway. I swear to God. She goes, I was going to give you a blowjob anyway. And I was like, okay. And she had great tits. And she fucking pulled up the thing and took out her titties and sucked my dick. And that was it. I took my car and I went home, and I felt kind of bad, but I was like, that's fucking crazy. So now like a week goes by.
I like how the look on your face when you're like, I felt kind of
bad.
bad.
You know, it's fine. She's married. Every once in a while, everybody's got to suck our dick outside the circle. I know. You know what I'm saying?
Suck a dick outside the circle.
You just want it to be yours. You just want it to be your turn. You know what I'm saying?
Sucking outside the circle.
Yeah. So at this time, I'm dating this little beautiful white girl from Kansas. And she's into blowjobs. She was 22, and my God, I gave her the best blowjob in the fraternity. Whatever, suck my dick. Whatever you want to do. I used to do open mics and take her in the back room and put ice in her pussy and eat the ice and put it back in the snatch. I was a little freak then. Look at Felicia. Felicia, I was going on fire then. I was just through my divorce, and I had never done this.
Really makes me be aware of when next time I'm on stage, because I do this bit where I put the tongue on the mic. I have to keep this story in fucking mind.
This is crazy, Felicia. So one afternoon, boom, 4 in the afternoon, I hear, da 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 da, and I open the door, and it's the chick. And she's like, can I come in? I'm like, sure. She's like, look, let me break it down for you. And then she starts to tell me about her. She goes, I'm 26. I've been a sexual phenomenon since I was 15. I'm hooked on sex. I fucked everybody at the high school. I love it. I love sucking dick. I love it. As a matter of fact, take your dick out because I want to suck it. And we started having this pseudo dick sucking. I mean, she wasn't even a woman. She was a super animal of sorts. I was calling her in the afternoon. She was calling me, and we were just pulling up the gas stations, and she'd blow me. I'd fuck her. I mean, and then we started doing coke and doing crazy shit.
Like what?
Like just craziness. Like just, it was endless. Like she was just into crazy shit. She had a great body, and I started avoiding her after. I'm like, this bitch is too crazy. Because sometimes you just got a gram of coke. You want to give the chick a couple lines, have a suck your dick. You want to go home and finish the package by yourself. This chick was such a sexual fucking animal. I mean, she was such a sexual animal. And I used to just, like, we'd do a line of coke and fuck. Line of coke, fuck, come. I'll suck your dick again. Let's take a shower, fuck. I mean, it was just, and one of the last times I seen her, I saw her, it was when they blew up, not the World Trade Center, but
in Oklahoma,
that same week.
Yeah.
And there was this Mexican dude in Boulder who sold like wholesale coke, and he had been in the halfway house with me, and he fronted me a bunch. So one of the nights she calls me, she's like, why don't you bring some beers over here? And I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to just go crazy with her. Because I could do like an 8-ball, a quarter with her, and I could just fuck her in the ass, light her on fire, all that. After 12 hours of coke and fucking, they'll let you do anything to them. Stab them in the pussy, throw them out the window. At that point, you're just having a good old fucking time. You know what I'm saying? Suck my toes, fuck, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just in a different world. And we had like a 36-hour suckathon, snortathon, no food, just fucking sucking, getting beer sent over from this liquor store delivery. It was horrible, Felicia. It was horrible.
And it was at your house?
It was at her house, and the husband kept calling, and she'd have conversations with him, and she'd be talking to him, and she'd be sitting on my face because that's what turned her on, to have a conversation with him while she was playing with my dick. I mean, this was a complete different level, and if I don't have any pictures of it, but if I showed you a picture of this chick, you'd go, Joey, you're not serious. And I'm like, dog, this was a complete different level of, I was just driving by. Can I have some cum? That type of verbiage came out of her mouth.
Right.
And then I go to her house, and she'd be a mom.
Yeah.
And she'd take the kids to piano lessons, and other moms would come over. And then I'd see her at 4 a.m, where she'd just come over and go, my husband passed out. I need for you to fuck me in the ass. And I would sit there and go, this is not. And thank God I picked up, and I left. And that was the end of the story. So one day, I get a fucking email that they moved. They moved to Houston, Texas. And I go to Houston, Texas with Bobby Slayton. Right? He gets transferred.
Even better part of the
story.
story.
Oh, yeah. He gets transferred to Texas. I go to Houston, Texas with Bobby Slayton. And while I'm there, they show up at the club one night. They're like, we got an ounce of blow. Let's go back to my house. So we go back to the house. We start snorting the coke, and this is where it gets tricky. About 5 in the morning when everybody's quiet, I'm trying to give her fucking hand signals to go outside and smoke a cigarette to see if I can sneak a blowjob. The husband says to me, yo, I got to talk to you about something. Honey, come in here. He goes, who was fucking my wife for all that time? And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, my wife was fucking somebody. Come here for a second. She goes, you know that night I called from whatever and you guys were there? Was Jake out there, Alex? And I go, Alex came by to have a beer, but then he left. And I left about an hour later. And he started saying, if I ever found out that Alex fucked my wife, I would kill you. So the whole time, from 5 to 6, he's telling me the story. But he's thinking that Alex was fucking his wife. He knew his wife was having an affair. But Alex,
So were you sweating? Were you nervous? Was he a
you know,
big fella?
I could beat the guy up, but still, this is really bad.
Yeah,
he was
that's
my
crazy
friend.
shit,
He used to drive me to the airport. He used to drive me to gigs. You know, but
Wow, Joey,
this is fucking horrible. But this is where the whole story gets fucking rolled up. So I'm in Rochester this last March, and some kid comes up to me and he goes, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. He goes, you remember me from Boulder? We were friends from Boulder. And he knew them. And he goes, well, I think they broke up and all this shit, but do you know why they broke up? And I go, no, I didn't know. What happened? And he goes, she had been a prostitute for 8 years. He busted her. Somebody from his office used her as a prostitute. And I asked somebody, and they told me the same story. They were like, bro, you didn't know that about her? She was a fucking professional hooker that was just turning tricks while he was out of town. Not out of money, because they made tons of money, but because she was a fucking financial, sexual fucking animal.
Wow.
So this kid came, I asked how the mother was. They kind of split up. I'm back in Denver going to school. She lives in fucking New York and he lives in fucking Texas. They don't talk. She's on speed. She
really?
just went off the deep end. But when they told me that came, like the whole circle came aboard. Like this chick was so, I was never, and even her friend was married with a kid, and she would come over from time to time and go, do you have any coke? Yeah, sure. Can I do a line and suck your dick? I mean, it was like something out of a fucking horror movie.
Right.
Like, and I forgot all about this. Like, I don't want everybody to think that the life was about. It was something that till this day I felt so guilty about because it's out of my character to fuck somebody who's married. But it was. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. I knew when I was going in. And
but sometimes when you get entangled with someone like that, you know it's going to damage you.
It was, and it all came to me like as I'm telling Ari the story, and I'm like, wait a second, let me fill you in on what else was going on. And I'm telling Ari, and this was just something that at the time I was dealing with my wife, I was dealing with the baby, I was dealing with a girlfriend who I liked, and I'm dealing with this chick who would come to the comedy club where the chick was a waitress. And I would say that we're going to go out to the car and smoke a joint. And she was going out to the car just to give me a blowjob. And I would come back like, I'll see you later. And she would go to...
Right.
It was something that I sit here and go, oh my fucking God. This was fucking craziness. But that's what life is about.
Sometimes you can get into a chemistry with someone that's insane. Yeah, that's for sure. Or your chemistry together is fucking insane. It sounds like she was pretty crazy.
She was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's I feel sorry for the kid. That's not a good thing to be handled.
I remember one time, right when I got separated, she came over, like a week or two after I got separated. I had no furniture at the house, and she asked me for something. She was picking something up for her husband. I go, it's either in the back room or it's upstairs. And when I came down from being upstairs, Felicia, this is like the first time she tried to fuck with my head. Like she was topless, playing with her tits and her pussy with her jeans on my couch. And her kid was in the fucking car, Felicia.
Oh, really?
And she's like, if you're going to fucking eat my pussy, you better hurry up because the kid's in the car. And I'm like, you better put your fucking shirt on. And she kept asking me, you're not going to tell my husband about this, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm a fucking animal, but you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
And then I thought she was playing me. Like, this was way before cameras. Like, that's how.
Yeah.
I'm no fucking Mel Gibson. This chick would be.
And I just hope I'm not one of those freaks to my kids, because people have been asking me, like, don't you worry about your kids are going to see your act? Like, people, like, I've been thinking a lot about that lately. Like, why is it that I just want to tell filthy fucking jokes all the time and talk about my pussy, and I was thinking about this hard, like, why do I do that? And I was thinking about, growing up, when my parents got divorced, my dad snatched my brother off the street when my mom had custody, and my mom didn't get to see my brother for like 7 years. And it always kind of burned my ass that my dad never snatched me. You know what I mean? Like, it made me feel like I didn't have value as a person, that he would only want to take my brother. That's really fucked up, isn't it? And I thought to myself, I think that's in a way, because then when I was a teenager and all my friends, and I lived in a little town called Fountain, Colorado, which had some great sides that you could grow up in a little town like that, but it was also a military town. A lot of military families lived there. And I just saw a lot of my friends marry young GIs, and a lot of them had great marriages, but it's hard being married to a GI, and they're gone, and you don't make a lot of money, there's no jobs for women, and how a lot of women got mistreated poorly. I was married to a GI, and I got hit around a few times, and the only difference is I didn't care about showing my tits. Like, it didn't bother me. I never thought to do it. I didn't even get tits till I was like a senior in high school. But then when I was 19 and I had a choice of, going back to someone who beat me or going on my own adventure, I didn't have a car. I lived 30 miles away from any kind of job. It was like when I took my top off, it didn't bother me. It wasn't selling a piece of my soul. Like, there are people that out there that do stuff in their life, it sells a piece of their soul. That in no way sold a piece of my soul. But lately I've been thinking a lot about, why is my comedy so aggressive and so dirty? And I think it has to do a lot with not having value as a child because my father didn't want me, and also knowing that just because my eyes lined up correctly and I didn't need braces, and I genetically, at the age of 19, it kind of came together for briefly, that I was able to use my own sexuality to get out of that. So I think in some fucked up way, I know you're smiling, but I think honestly that's what it is.
I manage. I can't believe you hit this light bulb. I like it.
Just going through that, do you feel that way about kind of what you went through as a kid? I mean, in a different sense, because obviously you weren't a stripper.
Not to knock it off, though, before you beat yourself up with it, because I know you don't, but it's always in the back of your mind like a light bulb. There was reasons why your dad didn't snatch you, not because he didn't want you. Maybe he thought that you were a girl and you do a lot better with your mother, so don't bag on him for that. There's a lot of
when you're a kid, that's a very valid point.
No,
and as
because
a parent now, I can see that.
That's the other way. That's the other way. I got 2 fucking kids. I got room for one of them. I got a guy that I don't want him playing with Barbie dolls. So she's fine. She's with the mother. Let her take care of the mother, and I'll make it up to her later. But he did what he could.
Yeah,
so
but when you're a kid, you see it differently, and you see it through the pain of your mother, who has no value either, and so anyway, but it was just an interesting epiphany that I was thinking about it lately, because I have been so obnoxiously filthy, and because a lot of people have been asking me. I did an interview for when I go to Austin this weekend, so a lot of people have been asking me, like, what, are you kids freaking out? How do you tell your kids? Do they Google you? And I know my kids can Google me, but I honestly just say to them, look, you can Google me, but I really wouldn't want you to listen to my comedy, because it's meant for adults, and it's meant for when you can really understand the levity of it. Like, sometimes my kids watch, what's that cartoon show that's filthy?
Adult Swim?
Family Guy.
Family Guy.
And like, they have abortion jokes and other jokes in there, and this is, I stopped my kids from watching Family Guy, because it wasn't because they're talking about filthy stuff. It was because there was an abortion joke, and it was kind of funny, but my kid wasn't understanding the correct nuance of the abortion joke. He wasn't understanding the gravity of the joke. You have to understand the truth of a joke in order to laugh about it, you know what I mean, and relieve yourself of some uncomfortability, and he didn't do that. And then that's when I was like, no. So I mean, I know they're gonna
Here's the deal, Felicia. A year ago we had a conversation about them talking to you about Playboy.
Right.
And that your neck hair stood up. And you said yes. And he said, fucking cool, Mom. Well, he didn't say fucking.
Yeah.
But he said, cool, Mom. again, you cannot beat yourself up.
Yeah.
You have been on television shows. These kids are going to look at you, and other kids are going to go, that's your mom? Wow, that's so cool. And just like everything else, they're going to be proud of you because of all the circle of fucking moms they hang out with. You're probably the only one that's got any fucking balls anyway. The rest
You know
of
what?
them
I
are going
say
to
that.
Pilates and
I
jumping up
say
and down.
that, but then sometimes when I hang out with the other moms, I'm all like, "Oh, this bitch is way secretly cooler than me."
If fucking I hung out with somebody,
like, I thought I was the coolest, but I'm so not.
if I'm 12 and I hung out with a kid whose mom not only was hot but said dirty jokes on stage, that's the kid I'm
That
running
is
with.
kind of nice.
That's the kid I'm running with. Nobody wants to hang out with the fuck. You know, look at not even fucking the kid. Not even Kevin Bacon wanted to fuck the girl in Footloose. The father was a fucking boring preacher.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hang out with you. But when you're dead, think about the first time you were young. See, I listened to Richard Pryor when I was 10, but as soon as I heard him say shit and fuck, are you kidding me? Vote for Richard Pryor. You know, who do you want for teacher? Richard Pryor. Who do you want for your coach? Richard Pryor. Because he was doing something, I don't know, that nobody else was doing. So, man, your kids are going to be so proud of you when they look at that computer and watch you talking about sucking a dick or whatever. They're going to look at you and go,
yeah.
But then other kids are going to go, that's your mom. You're a pussy hair away from busting something, Felicia. And the payoff is there. They're going to see why you went back. And you know what? I didn't understand my mother till I was 30.
Yeah, you don't. Like now, like when I was a kid, I used to think my dad was the biggest piece of shit. And now I'm like, you know what? He didn't even have a real name on his birth certificate till he was 12. Like, you know what I mean? He moved with his family and picked fruit and joined the army and, you know, married some German chick because she never picked fruit and he thought he was doing good. But she was kind of crazy in a beautiful German chick way. And, I mean, you grow up and you're like, well, that was crazy, but all right.
This is what happened. And now I understand you. Because when we're kids, we just throw in, he was a bad father. But then when we get to experience life, you say, okay, so wait a second, let me put the brakes on. He had to deal with being my father with all these other things going on. I really understand where he was coming from. Now I understand. And sometimes you give them a little bit more light because they're our parents or whatever. But that's what happens. Once you understand their life, after you've lived a life. Because when you're 15, you just think nobody got there. Bitch, I got to get on a 405 at 4 o'clock to come see your boring ass. And I'm going to get up there and you're going to give me a D report card? Fuck it. I'll just email you. And as you get older, you're like, well, you know, I understand now.
If you have anything you would like to share, a story you would like to share, please email us at beautyandthebeastpodcast@gmail.com. Look at our new website, which has been unveiled. It's a little bit slicker, and it has our new animation on it. And thank you for bearing with us for the last week or so. We've had audio difficulties, but now hopefully we're back on track. And Joey got a new phone. Joey is part of the revolution now.
I can't even tell if somebody calls me. If somebody don't call, I don't hear the fucking bell. I had to change the thing to the ringer.
Right.
Because they gave me like some generic ringer. I thought it was a luau.
Yeah.
So I had to switch it to this. I don't know what the fuck.
That's a fancy flashlight you got on.
Yeah. This is fancy.
Yeah.
But we'll be in touch with you motherfuckers. I'm catching up on all the emails, and I love you guys. Don't forget to go see Felicia in Austin, motherfucking Texas, people.
And you're going to be in...
Houston the following week,
yeah.
October 7th.
We're both going to be in Texas.
That's right,
Holy
bitches.
Shit.
That's how we do it.
All right. Anyway.
That's how we do it, bitches. Have a great week. Beauty and the Beast podcast. Stay black, Felicia. Much love.